Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes here. I'm going to give a little bit of time for people who are just logging in. So thanks for joining. All right, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I'm going to share my screen here. All right, thank you all very much for joining us. I'm AshEl from StopWaste. We are here for our Food is Medicine, Community Healing and Resilience video premiere and community panel. So excited to have you all. I think we had something like 130 people signed up to join us tonight. So we're super excited to have you all. And just to let you know, I think that some of you got the update that we are actually recording this event, as some people aren't able to join us live, but really want to catch it, of course, afterwards. So we will be able to share this after. And just to let you all know also for housekeeping that you are not going to be visible. It's only the panelists and the presenters that will be recorded this evening. But please do share any thoughts or comments in the chat. And also any questions throughout the evening in the Q&A function down below. You may not have experienced that before, but we have also this Q&A button. So please put your questions in there. We'll keep an eye on things. So again, just to quickly introduce myself, I'm AshEl from StopWaste. We're a public agency in Alameda County, California. We serve the county, 17 cities, 2 sanitary districts, and 18 public school districts. And our agency works with cities and community partners to help residents, businesses, and schools reduce waste and use resources more efficiently. We have a long-standing relationship with Bay Area Green Tours. I'm going to let Maya here introduce herself and Bay Area Green Tours in just a second, but we've had a long relationship and a wonderful partnership with them in the times before COVID, and also of course now, and we've just been so impressed and excited and honored to be able to partner with you, to be able to share the beautiful stories of the amazing work that all of these partner organizations also are doing that we'll see tonight. So I'm really excited to be able to share this presentation, this video with you all, and to co-present with Bay Area Green Tours. So I'll hand it off to Maya to introduce the work.
Thanks, Marisol. So excited to be here. And I'm very excited to be with all these beautiful people on the panel that shared their time with me. And yeah, so a little bit about Bay Area Green Tours. I've been working as videographer and producer there since September. And the team is me and Dennis and Elizabeth. We call ourselves BAGT Lens, Bay Area Green Tours. And Bay Area Green Tours is a nonprofit that was founded by Marissa Lamagna. And for 13 years, they have been leading tours for students and seniors and companies and even people from overseas, and inviting those people to learn from organizations and people advocating for the environment, and then empower them through that to make changes in their own life. So there have been all sorts of tours, many on farms, learning about healthy soil building, environmental justice, conversations around farm workers' rights. There's also zero waste tours, sharing economy tours, so many different tours that they've been doing for 13 years. And BAGT's first tour was launched as a Pitch to Green festival in 2008. And it was a visit to the Ecology Center and Urban Ore in Berkeley, which many of you have probably visited. And Urban Ore was also Bay Area Green Tours' first sponsor. So the idea was, instead of just talking about sustainability or issues at the time, let's taste it and touch it and visit it and interact with it and take a tour. So then 6 years ago, Bay Area Green Tours started to lead food waste tours in particular. And they went to the ecology center, veritable vegetable, local waste transfer stations, food shift. And then the pandemic hit and in-person tours came to a stop. And so that's when BAGT Lens formed, our video production team. So we started to try to edit together a virtual tour experience. And that led us here today. Now, Bay Area Green Tours is sort of at a crossroads as in-person starts to be a thing again. So they're trying to develop team building experiences, and we're thinking about how we can weave together both virtual and real life experiences for teams and for young people, and to continue to link people to these solutions and environmental activism, potential career opportunities, and basically just opportunities to have a significant impact on the world. So this film today, we were granted, we got a grant from StopWaste in November 2020, and it was funding to create a virtual food waste tour. So this is where food as medicine, community health, and resilience, that's where that story began. Elizabeth, Dennis, and I have been meeting and brainstorming and writing scripts and filming and editing and put this short film together that we'll share with you today. It seems to depend, Wi-Fi seems to have a little impact on how well people can view the video. So I really hope that you can see it well. And if not, like Marisol said, there will be follow-up. So the goal of this film is to take you on a virtual tour that highlights this dichotomy of food waste on the one hand and food insecurity on the other hand. So how is it that so much food can end up in the landfill each year while so many people in Alameda County do not have access to healthy food? So here are these incredible organizations that are on the panel. You'll see them in the film and meet them in the film. And then after the film, we'll dive deeper because each of these organizations is doing so much more than can be captured in this film. Like each little food tour to each of the organizations could be a feature documentary in itself. They are doing so much, and I have so much respect for all the people on this screen. So there will be time for a Q&A and a little panel discussion afterwards, and you can ask questions as well. And we'll dive a little deeper into those, into what they're doing, the work that they're doing. So let's press play and see what you see. And if you have questions, you can put it in the Q&A. There's this little Q&A feature at the bottom. Enjoy.
Food waste is a huge issue within our broader agriculture system. Just in our immediate area, 26,000 people are food insecure. Clearly, there's issues with our distribution of food in this country.
When I first came here, my first week of school, a young man, a first grader, he threw a chair up against the wall in a fit of anger. And when I said, baby, what'd you do that for? He swung around without thinking and said, 'cause I'm hungry. And it was 8:30 in the morning. And it was then that I realized the impact of hunger on school behavior, on attitude that they bring to learning, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm Wanda Stewart, and I started off in this work as an urban gardener and farmer. I started doing this work because the reason I think everybody should be doing the work, I was trying to grow myself. I was feeding people I knew, mostly even from in front of my house in Berkeley. And then I'd bring some of it here. And then it occurred to me that it was a great way to make our school and all school gardens food hubs. If the people start coming here for the food that we give away, they'll also learn to associate this garden as a source for food and community and resilience.
And that's what it's all about, you know, all of us helping one another as a community, especially during this pandemic, you know, and making sure that just something essential as food is provided.
I'm not sure that I was aware of food waste as a big, giant issue until the pandemic, right? When everyone's trying to figure out how are we going to feed all of our people. I was invited to go into Good Eggs and start reclaiming or recovering food that they're about to throw away. They had a wall that nonprofits could come and take food from and redistribute it before it goes into the food cycle. Much of the food we go and get goes to the Wood Street encampment or other encampments where people are living unhoused. And then we bring the rest here to the school to support our families, our teachers, our neighbors, our friends. It's really high quality organic produce. You know, there's food that is sustenance and there's food that is medicine.
So many people out here in the community don't get access to healthy foods. And so this cup of juice might be the only fresh ingredient that they're getting in their bodies that day or maybe even that week. I'm Xochitl Bernadette Moreno.
I'm AshEl, Seasunz, Eldridge.
And we're the co-founders and co-directors of EFAM, Essential Food and Medicine.
EFAM takes surplus food from backyards, farmers, food banks, and we transform that into healthy juices, soups, smoothies, and natural medicines for the community that need it.
There are over 10,000 unhoused people throughout Oakland, and that number's rising every day.
The cool way that we support our community is just like providing what people need directly versus waiting on some other sort of organization to decide like what our medicine is or what's considered medicine or what's considered health even, because we have direct relationships with people and we can provide what they need directly.
We decided to build Hob on Wood because members of the community came to us and asked for us to help create a place where people could safely cook, where they could have access to something that we take for granted, like a kitchen. We created the physical structure of the kitchen and then started to fill it with not just the ingredients, but the skilled hands of the residents themselves.
It's nothing like having a hot meal at night when it's hella cold, you know what I'm saying? I think people are happy using it, you know? There's people now that this is part of their routine now. They come over here in the morning to make their breakfast and stuff or make their lunch, and now that we can have fresh vegetables and cook them right, I think, you know, people will start getting a little bit more healthy.
This is just a part of the whole ecosystem for food security and the movements towards food security is looking at the distribution, but hopefully we're doing our part on educating and enrolling people in that whole holistic process of reclaiming our relationship with the land and with the earth and with our food.
We're really hoping that by connecting people with seasonal local produce, that it not only will help their personal health, but that it will help the community health and eventually have really deep food system consequences that create a more equitable landscape for everyone. I'm Holden Bussey, and I'm the Director of Operations at the Berkeley Food Network.
My name is Grace Liao, and I'm the Food Recovery Manager here at the Berkeley Food Network. For us, we really noticed there's these dual issues of food insecurity, and there's also so much food being wasted. It's not that there's a food scarcity issue in Berkeley or in Alameda County, but it's really the logistics of there's a lot of food waste and people don't know how to get it to those in need.
For a lot of our agency partners, space, refrigeration, and cooking equipment are a huge, huge barrier to effectively feeding all the folks that they need to.
So we've really seen ourselves as being this logistical arm between producers and individuals and organizations in need.
We take donated foods that couldn't otherwise be given out to individual families, and we turn it into delicious food.
Right now we're serving about 5,000 individuals a week, which is about 3 times as much as we were serving before the pandemic.
And it's largely because our food system isn't resilient, it isn't malleable, and we have really established distribution streams that don't work for everyone.
We also work with almost like 70 mobile pantry and partner organizations who already have a client base that's comfortable with them. The mobile pantries are really good spaces to sort of distribute all of those different recovered items that we're receiving, and then clients are able to make choices of like what food items they want.
We really think that the feeding assistance industry can make huge impact, not just in being a band-aid to hunger, but really addressing more of the root causes of the disease that is food insecurity at a systemic level.
As we build trust in our community and really establish these partnerships, there's just so much more willingness and openness to rethink what food waste is and to really make our food system more circular rather than just food being produced and ending up in the landfill.
People need not just the services that we're providing, not just the physical meal, but that actual human-to-human connection, and dignity is the best medicine.
You have a sip of the juice, you automatically transform whatever state you're in, whatever energetic space you're in, because it's something immediate. So that is medicine. The food is such a nexus for community. It's immediate.
I am hopeful in the stories of little black girls with big old bows on their head who know to eat good food, and they know that it matters. And I am especially hopeful in this work of food recovery because I'm recovering food that is going to people who need medicine most, and we're gonna work that flow of both people and food to sustain us all.
Yay, thank you for watching. Cool. So nice to have you here. I hope that got you thinking about what you put in your mouths and what you put in your trash cans. And now I would love to pass it on to the panel. So these people who are here, they've all attended. They're all here in virtual person with us. And I know that you all are doing so much more work than can be captured in this 9-minute film, that it was very hard to condense everything that you do into 3 minutes each, essentially. So maybe could we just go around and 2 to 3 minutes of what's on your mind, what projects are, what else you're working on, maybe a little bit more about the organization that you think wasn't clear from the video. That would be great. You can popcorn it, whoever wants to go, or I can. How about Wanda? You featured first in the film. Wanda Stewart.
Thank you, and thank you for that work, Maya. So everybody, that's the first time that I've seen it, so I'm pretty awed and amazed and grateful. I am Wanda Stewart, and I'm the executive director of Common Vision. This is Jonas, who's been along home all day, so he's going to be here for the duration. Common Vision has grown from an organization that simply planted fruit trees in schoolyards to support not just climate mitigation and those sorts of things, but to get food in the hands of children and food that they'd helped grow. Under and during my leadership, we've grown the organization to be one that supports the installation of school gardens and fruit orchards in schools, and one who grows and plants trees wherever we can. We also have started to support other organizations in growing their organizations as a fiscal sponsor. So we're doing our work at the intersection of food and education and the environment. We fell in backwards kind of to the food recovery piece, but we see it as our building ourselves as a full food flow organization, right? We plant the seed, we connect farmers with the people that would take that produce, we recover food to give that to the folks who need most and first, and then even get a little bit of compost going. So we're doing food flow and education.
Thank you, Wanda. Xochitl, AshEl, will you introduce EFAM a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. And thanks again, Maya StopWaste, and also Maya for the beautiful video. You've been video rock star. You've been rocking videos for us too. It's amazing. Yeah, Essential Food and Medicine started at the beginning of the pandemic. I guess like almost a year and some change ago, and sort of direct response to food and the people needing food essentially. So first, we were recovering food from various waste streams due to mutual aid networks, whether it be through ECAP, who was filmed in the film.
Was there this afternoon.
Yeah, Alameda Food Bank, and also backyards, like Oakland Gleaners, all these different sources of food, and wanting to transform it into something that was medicinal, something that we looked at ourselves and said, hey, we don't necessarily eat out of a can necessarily ourselves. And when so much talk around health, we understood that sure, we want to deliver the food that was healthiest, the phytonutrients, the live food, which is sort of hard to get in this context for this community, but also, wanted to put our prayers and our energy in this sort of like things that Xochitl and I were participating in ceremonially outside of it, and integrating that into our activism, like this deep sense of reconnecting that sacred hoop. I think someone mentioned the circular thing, getting into that flow of how can we turn our compost, our food scraps into compost. That pulp is really good for vermiculture, and actually, lift up the immunity of the community in that sense as well. So that's where we started, and that one juice led into more like of a building of a kitchen, through a cob kitchen, and started the cob on wood project, and then that turns into where we're at now.
Yeah, so Cob on Wood has been a whole journey, and it's been amazing to build not just the kitchen and the clinic and the free store and build out a whole big, beautiful garden, but also to, really start to be in deeper relationship with people and respond to their needs in a really rooted way. So that has been, I think, the greatest honor is to grow alongside with the community. And we feel like it's really important to let everyone know that that community needs hands-on support in this coming month. The folks that we're in direct service to and following the leadership of are right now facing potential eviction by Caltrans, the folks that own the land that they're on, that Cob on Wood is on, and that many of the residents there live on. And so we'll put the rapid response phone number in the chat, and please feel free to sign up and get updates so that you can come down and help put your body on the line to defend the people that are receiving these foods and medicines. And if you feel called, you're always welcome to come down and plug in with us in a deeper way. Get your hands in the dirt, come make juice, come make medicine, help it find its way into that sacred hoop. So yeah, definitely stay abreast of what's going on at the Wood Street community. And it's not just Wood Street. After this call, we're going to an organizing meeting of residents, unhoused folks from all over California that are starting to join together in a curbside solidarity movement across California to stand up to folks, not just like Caltrans, but other city and landowners that are, you know, causing displacement. So this is growing, and the food and the medicine in our bellies and in our hearts makes that work possible.
Yeah, and just wanted to say really quickly too, like, because I think that was in the chat about, you know, things going viral, that's been a really cool opportunity to have some of these ideas go to different cities and states, and been in communication with Portland recently, and, you know, folks all around the country, and, you know, sort of dreaming up what are the things that make a sustainable hub, resilient hub. Like, is it, you know, transforming large quantities of boxes, you know, of food that are coming in? How do we transform that quickly and efficiently into, you know, to juice, smoothies, soups? May look like sort of a movement of like securing that for the commons, right? Different equipment, like I think I was mentioned from Berkeley Food Network, making sure, you know, different cities and townships, they have like access to that equipment that can transform things into that. And what a beautiful process of ritual to actually take that which was, you know, composting things and transforming things into medicine by our intention, by our touch, by our hands. You know, it's a beautiful alchemy, and we're excited to be a part of it.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of those powerful things. Berkeley Food Network, how are you over there?
Thanks, Maya, and thank you to StopWaste and EFAM and Wanda for being here with us. We're really in good company. So my name is Grace, and I'm the food recovery manager here at Berkeley Food Network. And we were actually founded back in 2016, really because Sarah, our founder, realized that there was a lot of need in Berkeley. About 25% of individuals living here were food insecure, but all of that need wasn't being met by sort of the vast network of shelters and food service and different meal providers. So we really were created to sort of connect all those pieces and be a hub for food sourcing and food distribution, and really just be that bridge from different food businesses, the food bank, sourcing from a variety of places, and giving that access to clients and to organizations in the community. So in that founding, our hub kitchen was really a big part of that, where we saw there was a lot of food being wasted that isn't necessarily ready for direct distribution to clients. So we are in our kitchen now 3 days a week, using all recovered food to make these individual vegetarian meals that we distribute at all our mobile pantries. So partnering with different community organizations, giving them the food resources, outreach, everything they need to have their own farmers market style client choice pantry in whatever community space they have access to, and providing them with all those resources so that they can provide their community with the access to food that they need. And we've really found that when COVID hit, there were all these additional businesses and places that realized all the food waste that they had when they had to shut down. And we were really connected with, now we're getting donations from over 60 donors on a regular weekly or monthly basis. And COVID was really the catalyst for all those connections. So as we're looking forward, we've really expanded our program, not just to cooking with the recovered food, but also figuring out how we can share it with different kitchen partners in Berkeley and distribute it directly to clients.
Thank you, Grace. I'm Holden, the Director of Operations over here at BFN. And I just want to say I'm honored to be on this panel and so grateful, inspired by the work you all are doing, and hopefully by the work that a lot of folks who are watching are doing as well. I think Grace did a really good job at explaining what we're doing here at BFN. And I think, fundamentally it's about rethinking what has value. And then how can we turn these things that systemically we've identified as things that might not have value and manipulate them and distribute them to folks to better their lives. So that's really the core of what we're doing here. We do it in a variety of ways, and we really want to really keep this idea of the circular economy in mind, because currently, our production, our distribution, it is a single path, and it comes to an end, and it comes to an end in a waste stream. So it's really about rethinking, okay, of that waste, how can we capture that value and then distribute it and connect it to folks who are in need for the betterment of all. So it's just so good to see the work you all are doing, and very happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, there's a lot of a lot of overlap in the organizations and a lot of like niche work and special perspective added, I think, by having each of you here. So we'll go into a little panel questioning. We have time for one question per organization and then one final question. If anyone in the audience has questions, you can put it in the Q&A feature. It's at the bottom if you hover over your Zoom webinar screen. So first question is to Wanda. Wanda, what inspires you? What inspires you to do this work? And what can we all learn from the work that you do?
So sort of what was happening in this film, what is happening on the screen is what inspires me. All of us pulling together to create the world that we want to be living in. I know that our organization, Common Vision, is better for the growth that it has experienced and been sort of pushed in an urgent way to undertake. And I know, and personally, I decided rather than be scared about viruses or even stomp in the streets and protest over the social people unrest, we decided to double down on the preparation for what happens after the tumult is over. I think the fall of patriarchy or whatever is falling to pieces now is happening because that's just how gravity works. And I know that when we all hit the bottom of this, we need to be able to roll, we need to be able to eat, and we need to know each other well in community. And I know that all of us, we don't just need food for the physical sustenance. Food is what holds us to culture, and food is what holds us to each other. And when we feed one another, we're loving one another. I have been amazed in giving away food, and we've been giving it to anybody that shows up. We don't ask you how much money you make. We make sure we take care of the children and the folks who need the most first, but we also pull that net up to embrace everybody who's human. And in that, it's been an exercise of learning to give and to take, right? And there's people out there who like, oh no, there's other people who need this food more than me. I'm like, you need food, you're human, you gotta live, right? 50% of us have to be able to receive so others can give, right? And vice versa. And that developing an ethos of mutual care and mutual exchange, I think sets a nice groundwork for what I hope the world is as we move all through this. Common Vision and I also tend to work first in school gardens, but our babies are among those who need the most from us first and take the most care. And they're also like nice little plant starts. They're pliable and easily grown, right? We rusty old grown-ups, I'm working with them, but the future is those babies. And schools sit at the center heart of communities, right? So if we put all of that stuff in schools and we teach the babies and we feed them well so that their brains grow and their bodies grow and they learn how to take care of not just the environment, but each other, that they might not see a whole lot of difference between people and butterflies and actually quite a lot of similarities, then we're setting a pace. And so that's what inspires me. We're building a world for tomorrow, and I'm taking that very seriously. And everybody needs to eat.
That's beautiful. I definitely learned that lesson filming Wanda. saying, no, it's okay. I don't need that. It's okay. And she's like, Maya, if you want that food, you take that food. And I took it and I was really happy.
Ta-da!
And everyone took food. It wasn't, everyone there was taking food, right. And we were all fed and nourished at that moment.
And let me just say, the other thing I've learned is that there is nothing but abundance. There is so much food out there and it's in weird little traps, but we should not, any of us, start thinking that we can't feed everybody, because I'm amazed at who we're feeding and it's supposed to be trash.
Right. And I think everyone here knows that on this panel. There's so much food. All right, so I'm gonna move this along to EFAM. Will you talk about food as medicine? What does food as medicine mean to you?
Ooh, food as medicine, my goodness. There's the famous quote from Hippocrates. Hippocrates is one of the ancestors of medicine, and of the whole trajectory that medicine has become. And, it's argued whether Hippocrates said this or not, but we're going to go with it. They say, let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food. And I think that as we're learning from this video, as we're learning in this work, that what you can see transform in a person when they are able to feed themselves with whole fruits and vegetables, with a hot meal, with food that's prepared with the intention of love and well-being, that it's like what Wanda said in the film, a little boy throwing a chair, that the ability of our bodies to learn to interact with each other in a good and healthy way is directly impacted by what is inside our bodies, right? We also know that the gut, the stomach, is almost more powerful than the brain, perhaps governs so much more of what's going on inside us. And so when we're able to balance our gut microbiome, we're able to balance our emotions, we're able to balance our way of working, speaking, interacting. And so for me, over this the course of this year and some change, has been seeing change in people, seeing folks that in the beginning, you pass them a green juice and they're like, what is that? I am not drinking that. Like, please don't give me that. To, we pull up and they're like, where the green juice at? And to see that transformation, not just in their palate, but also then in their capacity to, a lot of those folks, had a lot of challenges and still have some of those very, very same, very real challenges that come from a systemic inequality. The problems rooted in a capitalist system, the problems rooted, in the systems of oppression under which we live. But when we're able to say, hey, I have the power to transform this thing, I can directly impact what people have access to put in their bodies, then things, are possible. And a lot of those same people are now, on our team, helping us to come and make the juice, helping to, build the structures that then their community is coming together in, building the infrastructure of an active community that now has the ability to stand up to this oppressive system that's trying to evict them from the land, has the ability to be in deeper relationship and connection to the land. And that's all just not to mention all the plant medicines that we've been getting going, and tinctures, salves, and all that love. And so, I think food is our greatest medicine. And if everybody wants to just take their hand and give their gut a little rub and say thank you to that microbiome, say thank you to this body that carries us forward every day. Matlaso kamati. Over to you, AshEl.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of it sort of imply that food is medicine. It's the sort of ritual we participate in it, every day, multiple times. So it's just very good to, be aware of where the food is coming from and have a hand in showing and putting energy into the food that gets distributed. And I think, what's been exciting is having different people. For me, like having different people from different backgrounds, may not know each other, be a part of this mutual aid network, and actually you see their healing in the person who's actually giving as well, quote unquote. Like I love that quote, 50% has to learn and receive, so 50% can give, because it really is like, those who are, taking on sort of giving something to someone else, quote, they're the first to get transformed, right? And then so that's what really I think is powerful about it, is just sort of standing up and saying like, hey, like I want to align with those cycles of the earth. I want to align with this way of existence. And then that becomes medicine. Like our What's Our Medicine event, we did a couple of those events. Sure, we talked about food, and we talked about medicines, and had 30 different practitioners doing wound care and things like that. But we all, folks giving massages and creating the planter boxes. But ultimately, we said that everybody has medicine. So it's like, how can we put that medicine on display with food being like essential agent, something that brings us together. So I like this idea, I like this panel, is deeply inspired and encouraged that, folks are thinking similarly around how do we transform like the waste of, and transform that into like medicine and actually sort of fuel for people having more capacity to actually be in sovereignty and sort of govern their own existence, So exciting. Yeah, thank you.
And just to
Yeah.
say that before the juice goes out, before the soups go out, AshEl and the whole team, like they pray over it. They do chanting, they do intention setting, and I think that that's also some real special sauce. And to just, however you connect to the center of the universe, like let's put that in the food.
Thank you. Berkeley Food Network, feeding off of that medicine. What next steps do you feel are needed to address surplus food and food insecurity? You can talk about policy, you can talk about this system of oppression and capitalism that was referenced before, that's so difficult, these intense food distribution streams that are so hard to move away from.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you, Maya. Thank you, everyone. I really think it's about resource allocation. And during the past year, there's been a big spotlight shown on food insecurity and the need for feeding assistance. And with that, there's been a huge uptick in the support, both financially and from a human capital standpoint, and different projects that are working to solve this issue. And in order to sustain these projects and grow these projects, we really need to invest in folks like all of you that are doing this work. And objectively, it's very hard work. And unless we societally make some choices about where our resources are going, we will be fighting, a very tough, at times losing battle. So I think, fundamentally, we need to evaluate, where do policy choices lead us? And there's been great discussion about how food is medicine. And unfortunately, oftentimes in this country, based on how we subsidize food production, a lot of the food that folks consume is not medicinal. It does not have life-affirming properties. And that's a travesty. It's an absolute travesty. And it's a travesty that a meal that is able to be recovered from the waste stream has more nutritional value and impact than a prepared meal that is purchased down the street. And so that just seems fundamentally to be so wrong, just so wrong. So I think it's about identifying projects that work and then investing in them. Investing in things like Cob on Wood, in which people have this intrinsic goodness, as opposed to investing in these streams of production that really degrade our environment and don't take into account the human capital involved in these production cycles. So, either we are encouraging food insecurity with the way we subsidize things, or we are alleviating it. And these are really complex issues, but a lot of it is just resource allocation. And it's not a quick fix. These are so complex, but it really starts with where's the money going and who is benefiting from those subsidies and those policies.
I just want to add that I think for both of us who joined BFN during COVID, I think what we really learned was that COVID exposed what was already broken in our food system, but was sort of hiding right under the surface because our grocery stores were always stocked. People were going to food assistance organizations, but not quite to the level that they are now, where we're serving 3 times as many clients as we were before COVID, and that number hasn't dropped at all since things have started opening back up. But I think while engaging in this work, what I strive to do is build relationships with our food donors and to really let them see when they're bringing in donations to warehouse exactly who that's going to. We'll have donors coming from like Imperfect Produce on Fridays, and it'll go directly out to folks who are serving people in the Mission and in Fruitvale. So it goes directly out into the community. And I think showing those direct relationships for food donors where they really see the value of donating their food and where they're able to make these direct connections so that they're not just handing off their food waste to us to deal with, but it becomes something that all of the producers and farmers, wholesalers, all those folks in the food system really begin to understand what their role is in food waste as well. So I think for us, bringing together these issues of food waste and food insecurity and all the people working in those spaces, so that hopefully we can build really resilient relationships that will really create a resilient food system around us.
Yeah, and Wanda, I love so much you describing kind of the difference between youth and adults. And I really wish that our food system kind of more so mimicked the youth and the students that you described, because sometimes it feels a little bit crotchety and a little bit mechanized and a little bit outdated. And I think we definitely need to evolve our whole approach and our whole ethos surrounding food production.
And feed the children well. Anybody that doesn't know what the school system's food is like might be horrified to know that, yeah, we're feeding them way better by going and retrieving food going into the waste stream than we're giving them in the course of their school day.
Yes, yes. So I want to open it up to the audience, so questions to the audience, but I am curious. We did have one question that's what can we all do in our own lives to help address this issue? And I'm curious to, like, along those lines, if any of you have a question for somebody else on the panel along that line based on what you've heard them say, because I know your work overlaps, but it also has its own little areas. Do you have questions for each other that come to mind that are sort of along the lines of what are you going to do next? What do you think is important for people to do next?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I had a lot of questions for like Berkeley Food Network. It's really inspiring. I'm just curious a lot actually around like the space. It seems like there's community kitchens. Is that they're in the future looking at creating multiple sites for that? What goes with the food waste? Is there like employment, like how the employment structure is? I mean, I have like a lot of questions because it seems like there's a lot of alignment in terms of like just like general philosophy around what should happen. So I'm just curious on just so we can build better relationships with you as well.
So there can be a lot of offline talking, but I think that this really points to the resource distribution as well, like what Berkeley Food Network has access to versus what a mutual aid, grassroots mutual aid org has access to. I don't know if you want to speak to that, Holden.
Totally, yeah. So, what really allows us to do the work we do is our space, right? We have big walk-in freezer, and a big warehouse space with a loading dock. So, if we think about the distribution stream and also the reclamation stream, what our space allows us to do is to support organizations and community partners that don't have the same resources, that don't have the same equipment and things like that. And I think the vision and the goal would be to have these spatial replications of this model. And our model definitely has room to grow and expand and have a broader impact and incorporate more organizations like yourself who might not have all the same resources we do. And I think it really goes back to this idea of, collaboration. And fundamentally, from a resource perspective in the nonprofit space, while we collaborate, there is also competition for funding. So that's I think an inherent injustice about this industry. But I think it's about the human connections that allow us to transcend that and to be like, no, we're in this philosophically for the same reason. So let's just share in these resources. Let's identify what support is needed and let's provide that. And, that's from the volunteer giving their time to people who are in higher decision-making positions operating with that same mentality.
And following from that, are there any sort of words of advice for people who are in the audience as consumers, like how they can support that transition or that kind of flow of relationship building and resource sharing?
I mean, my first answer, I think, is always going to be a model in the way in which you conduct your own life. Right? Waste smaller amounts of food. Stop wasting food, right? Feed others. Be aware of your fellow people. I've learned to say to the people who are resistant to taking food, okay, how about if you take the food and give it to the guy on the traffic island when you pull up at the red light? Do you have a neighbor that could use it? Do you know a single mom with teenagers who would really use access to this food, right? And just cueing people to figure out ways in which they individually can participate in the food flow and this circular relationships that we're trying to set up with each other. And operate from abundance. You don't have to take everything you see. There is more coming next week, right? And we're trying to model among the groups doing this. Let's not compete for the food that we get. Let's share it. Let's think about ways in which we can distribute it equitably, right? And efficiently. Let's share spaces. Be careful of bragging about that walk-in though. But, all these kinds of things so that, again, because it's right. Cindy Curry put in there, building relationships are so important. I think it's essential. Once we have the personal relationships with each other, we can weave together our organizations and align our goals and focus.
I will quickly say, Wanda, you'd be happy to know that our walk-in is currently filled with about 500 produce bags that will be distributed to the Berkeley Unified School District tomorrow. So
yeah,
we got more space for you, so come on over.
Oh,
yes, cool.
Be coming. I got a car full of food right now.
Right.
There we go. We just need more walk-in fridges. Okay. Last question. This is taken from the audience. Somebody asked if more could be said about food flow. And I know that the circular economy was also mentioned a lot, cycles and composting back into the system and growing and sprouting from that, and then being able to feed from that. So maybe everybody could just do a quick response to food flow and the hope that comes with that too.
Yeah, for us, because we have, at O2AA in West Oakland, we were, doing compost, working with common compost initially, and we got really inspired around vermiculture, and noting that we have that pulp and the worms love the pulp, and she came back, she's like, yeah, people come up and buy compost from her and worm castings. So when we came out the Wood Street with people that are actually envisioning a campus, actually really amazing visionaries out there, and the people who do vermiculture, we started talking micro business. So completing that cycle and actually getting people out of, obviously, and simultaneously getting them services they need in general, but that education opportunity to really lift people up in terms of the entrepreneurship through utilizing that waste stream that can be beneficial beyond just like Wood Street, but yes, to the larger community, which also changes the transformation, changes the conversation and narrative about houselessness and how people, their aspirations as individuals and a whole host of things shift when there's something from that space that's an offering to the greater community. Really powerful. So that, and also just recycling in general, looking at what can be recycled as people are sort of expert in that in the community just by virtue of survival. So how do we amplify those things that are already happening and get into that twist, that turn of transformation with them and being that current such that we create something that is of value for the larger community. So we're excited about that in terms of compost and vermiculture for sure.
And just a nod to relationships, that I think relationships are a huge part of that cycle too, right? And so it's been such a beautiful experience to grow and alongside Ms. Wanda and Common Vision, and like be able to go into Good Eggs, be able to like see something that's so large, you know, like we were doing, like we said, from farms or backyards and kind of a different scale. And then to just see the scale of waste, and then see the flowers, the literal flowers that can grow from it, is like mind blowing.
Wanda, would you like to respond?
One, thank you. I love you, Xochitl. Let me just say that. In the permaculture world, we talk about both what's good for the land and the plants and what's good socially for the people. And I'm also learning that the way in which we recover this food, we can also recover people, right? We can recover our relationships. We send that food to Wood Street, they get medicine, we're recovering the people that we've tried to throw away, right? We take that food to the little brown children at Hoover Elementary and Prescott Elementary, and we feed them medicine that will feed their brains. And now they can't be thrown away or extinguished as the gentrification around them rages on, right? And so teaching people that how we treat our waste, how we treat our plants, how we treat our environment has all the lessons for how we need to also be treating our people, right? And our communities, so that we all survive and create permanent culture.
That's beautiful. And last 30 seconds, Berkeley Food Network.
I think in our circular work, we really want to prevent food from going to the landfill and bring as many people into the circles we can coming into our warehouse, and really recognizing that, you know, when we recover like a pallet of green onions from a wholesaler, that's not something that we can distribute in a day or in 2 days. Otherwise, it's going to turn and have to end up being composted or landfilled. But we need to bring other organizations, everyone in our community in to really spread that wealth and get it out to people so that it can nourish people instead of going into our landfill. And we just want to really bring people in, form that circular relationship so that we can get food out to the community.
And one last thing, Wanda, I so much appreciate you bringing up permaculture, because I really think that permaculture principles are so applicable to this work, to human nature and human tendency. And they really allow us to get past this scarcity fallacy and really acknowledge that the natural world does provide abundance. As the sun is shining in on us right now, it will rise and shine tomorrow. And so I so much love that way of thinking, and thinking about waste not simply as trash or as garbage to be left, but instead as a valuable resource that can be harvested, that can be used, whether that is for human consumption in the form of animal consumption, like your beautiful dog there, or lastly, in the form of composting. So, you know, really thinking about critically about, okay, if I'm about to throw this out, what can it be? And if I don't make choices to turn it into something, what will it then be?
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Marisol, do you have closing words? I'm so glad everyone could come.
Thank
There's
you.
not enough time
Yes,
to talk about it all.
Thank you, Maya, and all of our panelists. Again, amazing job with that video. We are so grateful and so honored to be a part of this project and be able to support all of your work and be in partnership with you all in some way. Just to let everyone know who's on the call, thank you for joining us. We are recording all of this and we will share it to you in your emails tomorrow. The video itself also should go live tomorrow on YouTube, and we'll share that, as well as resources from all of these wonderful organizations so that you can follow along and stay active and follow all the amazing work that they continue to do. So thank you again. Thank you all so much for joining us and for the amazing words, amazing lessons learned, and keep it up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, StopWaste.
Yes,
Thank you, StopWaste.
so much.
Thank you all.
And good job, Maya.
Oh, and my team, Janice and Elizabeth.
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh. Days.
Love all around. Thank you all so much.
Right, thank you.